Next, we have Seyi Adebanjo, who is a queer, gender nonconforming Nigerian filmmaker. Seyi's work is at the intersection of art, media, imagination, ritual, and politics. Seyi is currently a fellow with Queer Art Mentorship working with Yoruba Rishin. Seyi is the recipient of the Pride of the Ocean LGBT Film Festival Award and Hunter College's Dean of the Arts and Science Master Thesis Support Grant. Seyi has been an artist in residence with ALGO, as well as Mesos Institute, IFP, and City Lore Documentary Fellow. Seyi's powerful short, Trans Lives Matter, Justice for Iceland Nettles, screened as an official selection of the 28th BFI Flair London LGBT Film Festival, at the San Francisco Transgender Film Festival, the Bronx Documentary Center, and the Sydney Transgender International Film Festival. Wow. Other screenings include the Brooklyn Film Festival, Real Sister of the Diaspora Film Festival, the Los Angeles Transgender Film Festival, and the Walker Arts Center. So exciting. Please join me in welcoming Seyi to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. I want to say thank you to Jahira for putting this together at NYU and for allowing us to have this space to talk and to commune, right? And I also wanted to say that it's not because of myself that I'm here. It's due to the legacies and the work of ancestors and other folks in the movement that paved the way for me to be here. So I just wanted to honor folks and say that because of them, I'm here. So Iba Moloran Yaloya, Iba to Audre Lorde, to Sharon Bridgeforth, to Omi Oshun, L. Jones, to Marsha P. Johnson. We have Octavia Butler, Louise Tesh, Adebanjo, and Kaede Adebanjo. Because of them, I'm allowed to be here and we're allowed to do our work. So I just wanted to honor them first. And I'm going to go between talking with some things that I've written. I'm going to show you excerpts of 2 pieces of my work and also just like talk back and forth with y'all. So pardon me for looking at my notes. Thinking about the question of how are we courageous in the midst of this world to create our art and to create ourselves. I came up with the answer that as a queer, gender nonconforming Nigerian and Yoruba who lives in the Bronx, who's a survivor of immigration and also a survivor of child sexual abuse, that me outing myself is always taking a risk and it's always being courageous. And it's those moments like that that we need to speak our truths and also create space for other people to name all their identities and all their experiences for us to be able to create the work that we do that moves us all, right? Because the personal is political. We're overcoming trauma, institutional and internalized oppression to be self-expressed. We're being self-fulfilled and bringing our full selves to the table all the time, which requires us to be courageous. We are being aware and not acting out our traumas and oppressions on others, right? And also taking risk and being courageous versus just being the victim. We are creating as much love and fulfillment and success and joy as we deem as worthy. And to do that takes risk and courage. So I wanted to acknowledge that because it's necessity for us to even be here. So those things are required. And also looking at who I am and the world that I envision, it's built upon many pillars and in this global conversation about human rights, right? Looking at queerness, looking at blackness, at Africanness, looking at being whole and who we are. It requires us to be outside of the prescribed category of gender and race. It requires for us to be outside mainstream queer media, white heteronormative and heterosexist, transphobic, xenophobic, and also white supremacist movements for us to be able to be and do the work that we do. And I realized that my work is based upon those pillars, right? And I really look at how do you bridge spirituality and social justice also as a pillar for the art and the movement building that I do. Because what I see is that it's important to honor and reclaim indigenous ways of healing, practicing, and spirituality in our organizing, that they cannot be separate from each other. that it is important to make sure these practices that are viewed as private and personal things we do in our homes, that they are not, that they are political and conversations that we have, and that we also transform this conversation of religion just being about institutions to a conversation of what has happened to us, our ancestors, folks who use spirituality to organize our movements. And those are not private conversations. They're conversations we need to bring to the forefront because there was a cost for them to do that, right? If you look at people who were killed for being called witches and wizards in the past and continues to today, these conversations are important. If you look at how we use these things to liberate ourselves. Like, for example, we have folks who free themselves in Bahia. They use ritual, they use organizing and their way to honor Mother Earth to free themselves, right? And to also create capoeira, which was their form of resistance and continues to this day. We need to make sure that those stories are heard. We need to make sure that we look at how even spirituals are used as a tool for us to have the inner strength that we need. Quoting Sharon Bridgeforth, she talks about in the spirituals, the ancestors, in their profound wisdom and understanding of spiritual technology, have left us with tools for shining in our lives. The spirituals invite us to know that multiple things can be true at the same time, that we can stand fully in our brokenness and hope, that we can fully express our sorrows and fight, that even when our dreams are shattered and there is no evidence of grace, we are never alone. The spirituals give us the opportunity to be in community, to witness and be witnessed, to remember that we are not alone, by Sharon Bridgeforth. My activism is part of this within my art. It's a practice that's built upon the foundation of who I am, my cultural heritage, my rituals, my political histories, and hybrid identities. I situate the work in technologies and aesthetics of African cinema, of looking at third cinema, and also looking at lyrical documentaries to utilize and create this art form. I pull off inspirations such as Julie Dash, Marlon T. Riggs, Usman Sembe, the Black Audio Collective for inspiration. My films rewrite visual styles and also evoke a dialogue between technology, class, gender, and language to really make sure that I'm able to bring these things forward. It was important for me to not be stagnant in what a documentary is supposed to be. The excerpt I'm going to show you is called Oya, Something Happens on the Way to West Africa. And what it is a story that looks at mythology. It looks at gender fluidity, women's leadership, and also looking at who are the owners of the secrets, right? And so this story is not a simple story, it's complex, just like our lives, and it was important for me to make this movie into something that's lyrical. So I'm gonna show you an excerpt of it and talk a little bit more about it. Can I have lights, please? Thank you. Thinking about why a conversation of spirituality additionally, and us as queer folks, I think right now is a timely moment in history. Thinking about all the laws that have just passed on the African continent, in Nigeria, in Uganda, what's happening in Russia, what's happening in India, how Arizona tried to criminalize and now let queer people into churches or businesses. I think it's really important for us to really look at how spirituality, we're using it as not just a tool for social justice, also a tool for building up our inner selves, right? Because if we don't think the divine thinks we have a right to exist, how are we supposed to get up in the world, right? How are we supposed to leave outdoors? How are we supposed to be visible in this world? Because we talk about be visible when you're being invisible. So we need these tools to really support us. And I think right now it's just also just a timely conversation with everything that's also happening around gender. Like we know some of those conversations with being people of color, being trans, being a trans person of color, a trans black body, gender nonconforming in the society, that people don't value us, and also the larger white community doesn't value us, that it's important that we have different tools to strengthen us so we can be visible, and also us coming together in our interconnectedness to really have real community organizing and building. And so the last piece I'm going to show is about Islan Nettles. She is, in our memory, a trans woman of color, and this documentation I'm showing was a visual to honor her life, and it shows what happened at the vigil and how we even play out our oppression upon each other. So it's just a couple-minute clip for you guys to see. Lights, please. Thank you.